Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Indexer office hours number 156. My name is Payne. I will be leading today's IOH session mainly because Abel is not able to join us today, but hopefully, yeah, Abel is not able. Hopefully, things will be fine on my end, and yeah. Let's go right in with the opening remarks. For this, we have the GRTIQ podcast number 167, featuring Shermin. It's basically an episode about the author of the best-selling book Token Economy and the founder of Token Kitchen. Shermin's extensive background includes founding the blockchain hub Berlin and serving as the director of Research Institute for Crypto Economics at the Vienna University of Economics, which is quite awesome. So I invite you to listen to that and share your opinions in the general chat. And without further ado, we should jump straight into Repo Watch.
Thank you, Payne. Hello, everyone. Okay, so starting as always, today's repo watch is quite small, but starting with Firehose Ethereum, we have had two new releases. We have had version 2.4.8, which includes for Firehose response for both single block and stream, SF Firehose v2 block meta data field. And this field is chain agnostic. And then there have been some improvements on the FireEat tools download from Firehose tooling as well, CLI. Then we also have version 2.4.9, which fixes a crash when ETH call batches of length 0 and the retry is attempted. And it allows stores to write to stores with out-of-order ordinals. This is all we have for Firehose Ethereum. Checking. And Matthew is confirming that they're in the process of rolling out another Firehose release. Then we have a new release on Avalanche. This is version 1.11.5. This is about optimizing bootstrapping. So this fixes a CPU spike when disconnected from the network during bootstrapping fetching. Fixes some job dependencies, handling for transitively rejected blocks, and fixes it prevents creation of unnecessary consensus polls during the issuance of blocks, plus a few other fixes. Then we have a new release on Arbitrum Nitro. This is version 2.3.4, release candidate 5, which prepares support for Arbitrum stylus block validation compared to the previous release candidate. And it also undoes the configuration changes in version 2.3.4 release candidate 3, which is removing node block validator execution server config flags. This is all we have for the execution layer. Moving on to consensus layer, we have not had any new releases. And onto the graph stack, we only had a new subgraph radio release. This is release number 104. So this release was introduced as alpha last week, and it just fixes a DB locked error. When new graph node? I don't know. Does anyone know? Okay, once every quarter, so we have a bit more to wait. Okay, over to you, Juan. Actually, now that I remember.
There we go.
Sorry. I think if I remember correctly, Adam posted that he wanted to make an announcement during IOH. Was that for this week?
I think so, but I was wondering if we should just finish off going through the protocol watch as well, and then project watch. But yeah.
Okay, sure. Sorry to mess up things. Over to you, Juan, then.
No worries. Thanks, Hannah. Okay, getting into Protocol Watch, we have a few things to cover. First of all, from governance, we have a little bit of feedback on GRC2, which is the QoS Oracle v2. If you're interested or if you have any more feedback to share, please go to the forum. The link is in the agenda. For forum research, we don't have any new updates. For the contracts repository, there is a few outstanding PRs, mainly one to remove the minimum allocation duration restriction. This is, I think, so that you can close allocations within the same epoch. Not yet merged, but again, it's in the pipeline. Then there's a little bit of Horizon work, as well as deployments for the subgraph variability manager, which the GIP, I think, has been approved. When merge, the merge for
Yeah.
Ethereum already happened. The merge for this PR, I don't know. Cool. So moving along, the network subgraphs don't have any new releases, but there's a small, not small, quite important PR for the analytics subgraph. As many of you know, it's broken. So yeah, we're trying to fix it with some performance upgrades. It's the update is syncing on some dev on the hosted service on some dev subgraphs. We'll have to check if that even works as expected. The analytics subgraph is quite a beast. If that works, we will be rolling it out to the staging endpoints first. I'll probably do an announcement because it has some schema changes. I'll probably ping Derek at some point to double check the PR if he thinks there's something else that we can do, but or someone else from Builders DAO. But I wanted to make sure that it syncs first and that it can actually get through the block. But yeah, for the most part, that's the update on the analytics subgraph issues. Again, there will be schema changes. Mainly, IDs will be changing to bytes. Hopefully, that helps a little bit with performance. But yeah, whether that impacts your app or not should really depend on whether you actually have some usage for the IDs. But anyways, moving along, that's pretty much all for Protocol Watch. I don't know if Paka's round.
Doesn't seem like he is.
Then we'll probably skip Project Watch and go to the open discussion. Over to you, Payne.
Yeah. So I'm seeing, by the way, Vincent is saying that it might be good to give regular updates to delegators. Basically, some people have been worried about missing data, which includes balances for some apps. And yeah, like zero balance for average delegator is scary.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think there was a PR. Not entirely sure. This is not on my hands. This is mostly for the product guys for Graph Explorer. But I think they were working on some changes to basically go back to using the non-analytic subgraph, so the kernel subgraph. Adam, the
Yeah, I
expected
know
timeline to
they
sync.
removed the charts and everything, so they're in production. So technically it should be fine, but there are like not the problem doesn't lie in the like official Explorer, is the other apps that are still using
Oh,
the analytics. Yeah, such as I
well,
think
for
Graphnauts
for
and
third-party apps, we don't really have a lot of control over them. We
that's
can
true.
probably ping them and tell them how to fix it, but it's basically the same way that it was used pre-analytics data, so it was a well-known fix. But anyways, for Adam, what is the expected timeline to sync based on the current syncing? Um, it's hard to say because we don't know if it's gonna be synced because the issues that the previous version was experiencing. Hopefully, they will be fixed with this performance upgrade. But if the performance isn't up to par, even with this update, we're not entirely sure. Again, we are kind of like the debugging phase for this was kind of weird because the issues themselves were not only performance related, but kind of like even maybe running out of memory related on the WASM binary. But yeah, so it was quite a weird error. So hopefully, if it syncs within the same time that the original one synced, which is roughly 5 days, 4 days, depends on how lucky we are with the infrastructure. But yeah, hopefully by the end of the week we have some more news for that.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Juan. All right, next up, since we don't have Paka here for Project Watch, I would like to share a quick reminder for Marcus from 𝗨𝗀𝗄𝗳 that developers have to upgrade their subgraphs to the graph network during the upgrade window. I guess more on that later, since we'll be talking about the GRT Sunrise program. Is Marian here? Yeah. If you can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. So should I let you present the Sunrise upgrade program next?
Yes, happy to do so. So let me share my screen. Oh, okay. Let me go without screen sharing. I can give you the voiceover. I would need to play around.
I can give you the
my...
permission. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Can you try now? You might have to restart Discord if it's the first time you're sharing. So.
Yeah, it is the first time I'm sharing. Wait.
If you're on Windows, you're lucky. If you're on Mac, you need to restart.
Mac, sorry.
Yeah, I got to restart. It just disappeared. But it's fine. We can
yeah,
wait.
But all right. But it's actually, I think the voiceover is sufficient because I don't have prepared any slides. So I think this is
right.
easier
Sounds good.
That. All right, great. So yeah, first of all, I'm Marian Walter. I'm running BD and partnerships for 𝗨𝗀𝗄𝗳, which means I'm speaking at the moment with a lot of the dApps that we have on the hosted service, of course, also with other ecosystem participants. But I'm really focusing on the 60-day upgrade window right now, basically making sure that everyone is upgrading from the hosted service to the decentralized network. And you already mentioned that we have launched the so-called Sunrise Upgrade Program exactly for that. So this ties into the three-phased sunrise of decentralized data, supporting the Sunbeam, so the 60-day upgrade window that was announced April 11th, until the sunrise when the hosted service endpoints will expire on June 12th. And in my normal work, I mentioned like speaking with the dApps, trying to get them upgrade to the decentralized network. I'm focused very much on the largest dApps first, right? Talking to them. But in our work, we found out that it's different when you speak with individuals than with projects. And the Graph Foundation has graciously supported upgrades to the decentralized network for dApps with grants, but we thought that we want to empower the community on that. And so we decided to reallocate some of these grants to individuals instead. Because what we want to do is empower these individuals that have contributed to the ecosystem to really do the step now towards the decentralized network. And basically what the Sunrise Upgrade Program is, it's a 6-week campaign for individuals of the Graph community and also targeting community newcomers, but more on that later. By the Graph Foundation, they've allocated 4 million GRT for this program, so around about 1.2 million. The announcement for this program went out on May the 3rd, and it is consisting of 5 waves of weekly missions that these individuals can complete, and by completing and submitting these missions back into a form, they can earn rewards in terms of GRT. So that's the high-level view of it. The whole backstory, of course, is that we've worked for 5 or even now 6 years with the hosted service as the nucleus to bootstrap the Graph ecosystem, and we were extremely successful with that. Not only have we established subgraphs as the industry standard, but we really bootstrapped the ecosystem around the Graph around indexing and reading data from the blockchain. So far that now the time has come to fulfill the initial mission that we set out to, namely having the reading layer of the blockchain be decentralized. And for that, the Sunrise Upgrade program is really targeted towards the individual contributors that are already in the ecosystem, but especially to those that are just trying to get in. This is especially important for us because as an open protocol, we are looking for the people, those that participated in hackathons, those that just want to get started in the industry. And for all of these people, this program is. Our role model for that was actually the curator program that we did in September 2020, which was super successful in terms of mindshare in the ecosystem and the general activity that it spurred. And yeah, this time with this program, we don't want to focus on dApps, which there are still like upgrade grants for, but this is more targeted on the individuals. And as I mentioned, it consists of 5 waves of missions, ranging from very technical, like there are two streams of missions you can do. One of them is technical, the other one is non-technical. The non-technical one is the so-called visionary track. This is like very creative and fun. It's all about education. So we intended this to be a nice on-ramp for people that are just starting out, trying to break into Web3, but not knowing how. It starts with missions that are as simple as just retweeting the Graph Sunrise Upgrade Program announcement, interacting on Discord and Telegram, creating memes or videos, up to like a little bit more advanced tasks like hosting X spaces, writing long-form research content, or writing subgraph spotlights. We even had the first submission of a song. So there's a very pretty dope hip-hop track that somebody created that's already live on X. I could share the link in the chat soon. Or running demos. So visionary track, all about education and about the vision behind Web3 for people to get onboarded. But then apart from that, there's also the builder track. So that's all about technical tinkering. Most of the time, it's for those that are already in the community. Tasks range from upgrading the subgraph, querying existing subgraphs on the network, assisting others with making their first queries on the network, sharing useful example queries, and creating example code that queries the network. So the messaging and positioning here is really for a huge wave of new participants to come in, existing dApp developers help upgrading the subgraphs, and all of this apart from the dApps that are supported in the general grants program. And there is like what we want to achieve with that is if people are really dedicated, they can actually earn quite decent rewards in size. So just to give you an estimation about the brackets in the builders track, so the more technical one, tasks range from 60 to 1,500 GRT. And on the visionary track, the more educationally focused tasks range from 40 to 1,000 GRT. But this is just for one task. There are about 15 to 20 missions in each mission wave. So from that you can see that there's quite some interesting and good rewards for people that are really dedicated. The rewards will be, like the missions will be checked by our team, the submissions that people put into the forms after each week, and then there's going, like the size of the rewards will depend on level of execution and also how early they were when submitting their forms. And the most important dates to be aware of is the program started on May 3rd. The first mission wave is due on May 14th. And then we have the upgrade window ending June 8th. And this Sunrise upgrade program will end on June 20th. And yes, I'm going to speak with Nick later today and then also address these people that want to break into Web3, those listening to the GRT podcast, and sharing more information on the Sunrise upgrade program. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. If there's any questions, feel free to shoot. Otherwise, we can move on. I have a question regarding the one of the topics of Repo Watch. I'm not sure if you guys have skipped it, but I see that is a mention of blockchain's operator upgrade calendar made by Matthew. I'm not sure if that was supposed to be shared during Repo Watch or whatnot, but I guess I can just drop the links in the chat.
That was mentioned when we first added it, and the link is still there, but was there a question in the chat? I'm not seeing it. Or do you mean just the section under the repo?
Yeah, just the section. I thought like I probably missed it when you guys first announced it, so yeah. I was wondering why they're still inside the Repo Watch section, basically in the agenda. But it's fine. Never mind. Guess I'm just confused by like the structure of the entire thing.
I see. Yeah, that's just there so that people can add it to their calendar when they check out the agenda.
All right, sounds good.
Thank
you. I don't know if it's yeah, I can check. I can check after, but it's supposedly working, I guess. All right, cool. So let's skip to the next section. Adam, if you're around, do you mind jumping in? Because I know you wanted to chat about some things.
Sure, yeah, let me one sec. Can I share?
You should be able to share.
I can.
Yay.
See this to say
Yep.
IOH?
Yep.
Great. Yeah, so just a couple of things. So there are a couple of PGPs which are being reviewed right now. One thing which obviously came up in the chat earlier was the graph node releases. So a couple of things here. One is reviewing the process, particularly for propagating new versions of graph node indexes on the network. That's been hampered a bit by the sort of the council approval step historically, and so there's a GIP for this, but I think there's generally agreement to delegate responsibility for sort of announcement or enablement of new graph node versions to the graph node maintainers, so the team who working on graph node and cutting new release and doing integration testing, so that will hopefully allow us to move a bit faster there. And we're also working internally on the graph node team on some improvements to our release testing process as well, so hopefully we can release more frequently. And I think Alex or others may be here in the future to talk about that. So that's just one thing that we'll hopefully be moving a bit faster going forwards. And then GGP 040, so this is a new graph node version. These are both being voted on at the moment. This includes new graph node version, also enablement of indexing rewards for Arweave file data sources, which uses the default Arweave gateway but this is a feature which is very similar to the IPFS file data sources, so it sort of isolates the non-deterministic from deterministic syncing. So that's more subgraphs which will be eligible for indexing rewards, and then similarly ENS, the ENS subgraph. So we're chatting to the ENS team about moving to the network, and they've got essentially quite an OG feature within GraphNode, which is fetching names by hash, which requires a one-off import of data. And so we made some changes a while back to GraphNode to allow this to be synced sort of deterministically. So essentially this the timing is pretty pertinent here because this is moving to the network as we speak. But this will hopefully be enabled this week. In terms of what you'd see as an indexer is that when you're syncing, the subgraph would fail if you didn't have these tables imported correctly. Should hopefully fail with a helpful error to point you to the right place to get the tables. And then you'd hopefully be off to the races. So that's just a bit of a heads up on some things. There'll be a more formal announcement, some more documentation of this going out once this is all approved. But wanted to come here to discuss and then also to field any questions.
Curious if we can just automate that ENS thing, because I know it's a little bit of a manual setup to get it working.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think there are two extensions. This one is whether this could be a bit more of a generalized thing, right? Where like as a subgraph developer, you could say, oh, I actually want to seed my database with the data from this file on IPFS, and I think I had a note there saying this could be a candidate for the file data service, which I know GraphOps has been working on. Yes, I think in the short term, you probably wouldn't prematurely optimize this particular flow with the ENS rainbow thing, but I think the general pattern could make a lot of sense to save people the time and not have to sort of go and look in the logs and see what went wrong. I'm just looking at the chat. Sorry. One thing was on the weekly GraphNode updates. Yeah, so just to talk a bit to that, I think we would like to release a lot more frequently. Obviously, the constraint there is making sure that we don't break determinism with any new features. So looking to essentially just kick off in an automated way a lot of the processes which we do when we're releasing should hopefully allow us to move in that direction a bit more easily.
Yeah, that would be amazing. All right, any other questions? Or if not, I guess we can move forward to the next section.
They're on.
Guess I would take that as a no. So, all right, let's move to the last section of this IOH before, if we even have time for other things. Let's jump into this. So the next section will be presented by 𝗨𝗀𝗳𝗀𝗀𝗀, which is on building a decentralized brain with AI and crypto. Matthew, if you're around, feel free to unmute. I can see you unmuted, but we cannot hear you. Nope, still nothing. Yeah, there's a tiny button there, an arrow down. You can select different sources for both audio in and audio out. If you click that tiny arrow there. Maybe also check your settings. Maybe you have your microphone on push to talk. By default, I think it's only allowed to be on push to talk. So it's in the same section, basically, you can switch between voice activity and push to talk. And if you're on push to talk, you have to set a button in order to press it and keep it pressed to talk, basically. Try to switch back to push to talk and set a button for it, maybe. Because I remember by default it's only allowed for push to talk for non-admin users. The presenter role should only affect the ability of screen sharing. Oh, so the presenter role gives you the voice activity one. Okay, never mind. Yeah, can you try to unmute? Maybe it works now since you have the presenter role.
Does it work now?
There you go. Yay,
Oh,
let's go.
okay. Perfect. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about all the technical issues. What we wanted to talk a little bit about a piece of content that we've been pushing with Streaming Fast recently, and it was thanks for sharing the link. We've started with a blog post around building a decentralized brain with AI and crypto, and really the idea was to give our vision of where we think the merge of those two technologies was happening or had a big potential of happening, and also explain how the graph can contribute to this. So Josh, which is in the call here, helped also write this piece of content. We also had a podcast, a GRTIQ, on the topic where we expand a little bit on what's in the blog, and also on a few other ideas around how the graph can benefit from AI and help with the idea of decentralization of AI. And so I wanted to use like most of that time for question and answer, but for people that haven't read the post, we'll quickly give a summary. And so the idea was we've heard a lot since the beginning of the year and even like last year around what was happening at the intersection of blockchain and AI. A lot of hype around this. People that are like painting long-term pictures of how blockchain can help with decentralization of AI, on getting access to GPU for cheap, making models available to everyone. And with the graph, like we've had a few different initiatives over the past year on like supporting that. Some of them like led by Semiotic, like making LLM models available to be run by indexers, so that people could run inference on the network. They've also built a first version of an agent that was like a chat agent fed by Substream's data, so that had access to on-chain data, could run analysis on that, and then even like had access to DEX APIs and could make trades. So you could see like the full process of going from having a first question, analyzing some data, and then making a transaction. But what we discuss a little bit more in the post is a new type of idea, and it's leveraging knowledge graphs as part of an AI agent. So some of the limitation of the AI models is that they don't have access to live data. They're very expensive to retrain with new data. So the way to go around this, to give like real-time, up-to-date information, is to feed that information in the context. So I think pretty much everyone has used ChatGPT or a similar tool, really feeding the data that you're interested in your context. And so before sending your question, adding all of that information in. And what we're describing is the idea of Geo being like a great tool to do something like this, right? If you think about Geo as a way to create information, curate it, and have people create connections between pieces of knowledge. Now you have like basically a knowledge graph with like potentially all of the world's information. And if you build an AI agent on top of it, you'd be able to leverage all of those connections, all of that content that has been created and curated by humans, and make that accessible to an AI agent that now can answer questions based on all of that knowledge, and even give you feedback on the content that you're that you've created. So yeah, that's really like the big center part of this, but I think there's a lot more that the graph can bring. I mean, this is a very important component. I think that's where we're going to see AI agent like go in the next year or maybe couple of years. But also, I think aligning with the idea of being able to index data, right? Like all of the work that has been done, like since the beginning of making blockchain data available, is going to be leveraged by foundation model builders and like people that want to train models on more data. You can imagine using on-chain data to train your models and have models that are more specific to the use case or the application that you have in mind. And eventually, as we build a world of data services, those agents that are leveraging this data could also interact with other data services. With this concept of new data services that we're going to bring to the network, those agents will also be able to interact with those APIs. And that means that really now you have an agent that can take action in the world. And it is not just a ChatGPT that you can talk to and will reply to you, but then cannot really do anything for you, right? Like all of the decisions that you make, you still have to go and execute that. Like thinking about the case from Agent C, the agent that was built by Semiotic. If you were to do this with ChatGPT, you could do your analysis with ChatGPT, but like you can't make a trade directly from their interface. So by having all of those data services interconnected, now you can make you can put your model at the center and allow it to interact with the world for you. And that's really the next step of automation, and where I think the world is really going to benefit from AI around not just reading text and creating content, but also being able to just build autonomous agents that can interact with other services and that can interact in between them. So I think that's also something that we kind of touch on a little bit in the post, but something that like personally I'm very excited about and really looking forward to see how we can make those things come together. So I think that's enough for like going over the post. Just gonna check if there are any question. I'll just go quickly through the chat, but feel free to ask if there's anything. Yes, the podcast is out. Yes, thanks for sharing the link. I see people typing, but I don't know what's gonna happen now. Hit enter, please.
So I see Derek is asking, as someone who is not at all educated on various aspects of AI, I feel like things get a bit general in terms of implementation from the indexer point of view. What does the MVP look like for this type of service? What type of things should we be discussing, educating ourselves on?
Yes, so really good question, because a lot of the things that we're discussing are kind of long term, and that's why like they might feel a little bit general because we're not describing a specific implementation. But some of the things that are going to be coming in the shorter term and that can be a lot more concrete are, for example, being able to run as an indexer, run an LLM inference engine. So like really taking an open source LLM like Llama 3 that was released recently by Meta. All of the architecture, the weights are all available. I think the best place to find them would be Hugging Face, but it's probably also like on Meta. They probably have a place where you can they have their repo where you can find all of the information. And so really, as an indexer, you would be running this model, and people would be able to query the model with text, since it's a large language model. So it's taking as an input some text and replying with text also. So yeah, really the role of the indexer here would be making the GPU or the CPU available to the consumers, and exposing that service so that people can like send requests as text and get answers as text. So that's kind of the very first component of like the more complex system of agents that I was describing. The second question is around the timelines. So the timeline, if it's this year, next year, 5 years out, all of the above, I would say. So the LLM services, I don't want to I don't want to speak for Semiotic. I don't know if anyone from Semiotic is here, because they're the ones that are more leading the charge around this. But this is coming in the fairly short term. There's been like some experimentation already, but yeah, I would say something like 6 months to a year, I want to say, but I would let Semiotic confirm. So I would say, yeah, like having LLM data services would be like what I would consider fairly short term. And then as we roll out more data services over the next few years, that's where like the bigger vision that I was describing will roll out. So yeah, like getting there will take time for sure, but but we're started on that direction. Next question is this would it be distributed across multiple indexers, should maintain their own copy? That's a good question. So I think to be able to serve it, you would have to have your own version of the model. Like you would be able you would need to have the full model running on your end. I'm not sure it would be possible to distribute across indexers, but we could imagine a world where if on the network there's hundreds of different models, different indexers would serve different models, and so would be able to scale this way. All right. Any other question? Oh, great question around, yeah, if I had to explain that to my grandmother, how would I dumb it down on why these developments are so important? So I'd say really at a high level, like right now, training models is costing like hundreds of millions of dollars. It's really expensive and only accessible to a few companies. And that's where we see that there's more and more centralization around who is building those models. And as those models are going to be what all of our tech stacks are going to be running on in a few years, you can like easily understand that it's important to give access to everyone to this type of technology, and that's where like I think blockchain can play a big role in making sure that AI is available to everyone, and that like data isn't centralized by and isn't owned by a single player. I think also by having like a more open approach, you stimulate more innovation, right? Like, and that's why Meta, like they've published quite a lot about that around why now they're open sourcing pretty much every research that they're doing, because they are seeing a lot more benefit by open sourcing it than keeping it to themselves. Like as soon as they release something, they see researchers around the world building on top of it, and developers customizing the models that have been built by Meta. And so even like this big corp sees a lot of value in open sourcing their research effort. And like really running an LLM on the network is kind of a continuation of this, right? Like if you open source the model and then make it available for anyone to run, anyone to query, you're taking that to the next level and making that new technology that is so important and will become more and more important in our lives. You're making it available to a lot more people. Yes, it would be awesome if Mini-Indexer can work on a huge model spread across different servers. Like for sure, like training those models is requiring a lot of compute power and also running them. So yeah, like really like the idea here.
Good point on the POAP, Pili. There's 20 more minutes to grab it. The code is when minus POAP. So make sure to grab that before the time runs out. And of course, I have to click numbers again to claim it. Crap. Right, so I guess if we don't have any more questions, should we just wrap up the session? Giving you guys another minute or so, and then we can all wrap up. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining today's session. And I hope I'll see you next week again.
Thank you for hosting this session, Payne. It was amazing.